This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Friday, February 24th, 2023, and we're so glad you could join us for today's show. In today's episode, Dustin will have a conversation with Dr. John Davidson. He is a veterinarian with the cattle team at Boehringer Ingelheim. We will also have a check of the ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day, we are joined now by Jim McCormick of agmarket.net for our closing analysis. Jim, what did we see in the grain markets today?
We saw a lot of risk off today. The corn market took out some pretty critical support yesterday in the old crop corn. It continued to sell off today, pulling the new crop down as well. The wheat market continues to see liquidation pressure as well into the end of the week. Beans were under pressure a little bit, but maybe not quite as much as the corn and wheat. New crop beans saw the most pressure, down around 15 cents, while the old crop was down, but not as much. Old crop's finding a little bit of support due to the Argentina bean crop continuing to be revised lower again today, and concerns about the world supply of meal, which is also providing a little bit of support for old crop beans.
Jim, of course, it has now been a year since the invasion of Ukraine by the Russian armed forces. And we think about that, in terms of the huge loss of life. Of course, it is a very sad situation, but we've been talking a lot about it in the ag marketplace over the past year. And when you think about it from that perspective, what are your biggest takeaways over the last year?
Well, I mean, what you got to look at, I think your biggest takeaways is it shows you just how tight the world, grain trading system is. We saw the disruption. Look at the price of wheat. Well, it got to $14. Beans or corn got over $8 as the world kind of panicked about where were they going to get, how you're going to feed people. And the reality is, like a lot of things happens, you get a lot of excitement and then it just kind of moves to the back burner. And the reality is there's still a very critical situation going on in that part of the world. I mean, the Ukraine feeds a lot of the people of the world. Their production was down dramatically due to the war. We're anticipating it to be down again this upcoming season. The wheat crop, obviously, there's not going to produce as big a wheat crop. And corn acreage is going to be down dramatically due to lack of fertilizer, financing, as well as just, tanks running around the cornfields, plain and simple. So, the world supply of grain is still going to be relatively tight. Now, if the Brazil ends up with a big bean crop and a big corn crop, and the U.S. has a big bean crop and a corn crop, it will take some of the pressure off of the world supply. But if one of us, South America or the U.S., has a production problem, the world food situation is going to get tight very, very quick.
Jim, on the other side of the ag marketplace, what did we see today in the livestock markets?
Not a whole lot happened in the livestock department today. I mean, it's more of a consolidation. The cattle market's waiting for the cattle on feed report. In general, that market, I think the cattle market, you got to be pretty optimistic. The supply continues to tighten. I guess in the cattle on feed report, we're recording before it comes out, should be somewhat friendly. And then, the demand overall is hanging in there quite well. The hog market's had a pretty good reversal off its lows. We saw some good export demand in today's numbers. We want to continue to see it. We do need to keep an eye on the U.S. dollar. A lot of people are trying to call a top in the dollar, but today the dollar did strengthen. So, if the dollar strengthens, it will hurt the livestock exports as well as the grains. But right now, like I said, if you're a cattle producer, you got to be a little bit optimistic. The prices of, cash prices continue to grind higher, the box beef grind higher, and that's always a good sign.
Jim, what will you have your eyes on the most when it comes to that upcoming cattle on feed report?
Right now, I think in general, we're just going to be looking at the supply tightening. I'd be shocked if it's not tightening. I mean, that's been the system. And what we're looking for here at Ag Market is for that to continue. And, what we're kind of keeping out as we go into spring and summertime is how does the Western U.S., moisture situation go? If those plains and, grass start to heal up from the drought, we're going to start seeing them retain heifers. We're going to start seeing essentially the herd contract as they start to try to build back in an expansion area. And if that continues to happen, so tightening supply in the U.S. economy, in the world economy hangs in there, that, that's a recipe of some higher prices down the line.
Jim McCormick of agmarket.net, our guest today. Jim, great information as always. How can our viewers get in touch for more analysis?
You can go to agmarket.net to get a free month subscription on our research, or call any of the agmarket.net brokers at 844-424-6758.
He is Jim McCormick with agmarket.net, our guest today on AMPM. Jim, thank you so much for the time and have a great weekend.
The same to you. Thank you.
That was Jim McCormick with agmarket.net. Let's turn our attention now to the closing numbers, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. March corn down 10 1/4 at $6.50 even. New crop December corn down 9 1/4 at $5.76 1/4. March soybeans down 5 1/4 at $15.29 even. New crop November soybeans down 13 3/4 at $13.74 even. May soybean meal up 2 cents at $4.80 even. May soybean oil down 96 cents at $61.22. Chicago wheat down 28 3/4 at $7.21 3/4. Minneapolis wheat down 23 even at $8.81 even. Kansas hard red wheat down 21 1/2 at $8.35 1/4. May oats up 1 1/4 at $3.45 1/2. On the Merc, April live cattle up 5 cents at $165.37. March feeder cattle down 15 cents at $189.07. April lean hogs down 17 cents at $86.02. Pork cutout down 35 cents at $92.82. And Class 3 milk down 3 cents at $17.86. And that's been a check of the Ag Market Recap here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break now to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association, and the Soy Checkoff. And when we come back, Dustin will speak with Dr. John Davidson with Boehringer Ingelheim. This is AMPM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today, Dustin speaks with Dr. John Davidson, a veterinarian with the cattle team at Boehringer Ingelheim.
Right now we are talking with John Davidson. He is Dr. John Davidson, rather. He's Senior Associate Director of Cattle Professional Services for Boehringer Ingelheim. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, so we're talking obviously about cattle health, and let's start with diagnostics, that topic there. You know, let's talk about what's going on there, what kind of things farmers and producers need to know.
Well, the underlying challenge for the industry overall is we're not very good at disease recognition, to be frank. Over the past few decades, we've evaluated the ability of, on the beef side, pen riders, cowboys, their ability to match up clinical signs that an animal might be showing or might be concealing, and what we're seeing on the harvest floor when we get those lungs out and match them up. So the opportunity here is to continue to explore and evaluate elevating the awareness for the shoot side and pen side people to follow the basic investigation of there's an acronym called DART to start with. That's depression. You know, how does that animal manifest? Is it showing signs that it's not feeling well? So you have depression, then you have appetite suppression, and it's the fill of the animal. Have they been eating? Are they the last to come to the bunk? And so on. Then you have respiratory character change. Any change in their breathing effort, and obviously, you know, an untrained person can see the end stage of respiratory disease where an animal is open mouth breathing and postured to where they're clinically ill. The challenge is to find those cattle before so that we can institute treatment sooner. The last one there is temperature, and that's, you know, obviously cattle going through the chute, taking rectal temperature, evaluating what the threshold for that particular protocol might be. But we've got to move beyond the visual and identify ways that we can continue to recognize disease sooner. I would say that the veterinary profession and animal sciences overall have been evaluating opportunities for earlier disease recognition, but the underpinning of all this really goes back to good animal husbandry and preventing disease whenever, wherever. And at Boehringer Ingelheim Animal Health, you know, our mainstay is disease prevention. We put a lot of pride in having good vaccines that, when they are used timely, before the stress and challenge of livestock movement, weaning, shipping, and so on, that we can prevent disease. And then as the industry is widely adopted, and that's the incorporating the use of metaphylactic antibiotics when we're not able to recognize and treat cattle in a timely manner.
And you talk about some of those antibiotics. Obviously, there's concern of what that means for the animal once it gets processed and things like that, especially if you're talking preventative care. But what can consumers know that they can be rest assured about when those practices are used?
We have a very safe and wholesome food supply in the United States. We have the benefit of having incredible veterinarians across the United States and having close working relationships with their producers. The thing that we want to continue to increase awareness and understanding of is how to properly use those antibiotics, not in both from the BQA standpoint, a proper route of administration and being aware of withhold periods after treatment, but the other thing that we want to be mindful of, quite frankly, is the understanding how each antibiotic is different in terms of its duration of therapy. And that's a charge to the industry overall, is have very clear-cut points for if you're going to use an antibiotic like Zactran, you want to know what is your post-treatment interval. How long after we use a product this way before, if the disease continues, before we would pull and treat or retreat with another drug. So stewardship, it goes hand in hand with stockmanship, and that's one thing that I think that we're doing a great job of, but we can do better.
And now also, beyond some of the diseases, you also have other little bugs out there. A lot of them you can't see, those parasites. Tell us a little about what we're seeing on that front.
In terms of parasitism, of course it's a huge drain on the performance and productivity of any cattle operation. One thing that's been very interesting to us at Boehringer Ingelheim as of late is we've been doing a lot of surveillance looking for the bovine liver fluke. Years ago, when I was trained in veterinary school, the geographic hot spot for liver flukes were within a few hours drive of the Gulf Coast, all the way across the United States, from Texas to Florida, and then up in the Pacific Northwest. And there were some other low-lying areas, of course. But we have been doing surveillance using the parasitology laboratory at Texas A&M, where we've been pulling samples at operations where we have found the bovine liver fluke in native cattle, not hauled-in cattle, but native cattle raised in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri. And that has really certainly increased the awareness of the fact that the liver fluke problem is much more than a Gulf Coastal problem.
And how alarming is that when an animal is affected by that?
Well, the challenge is that with the bovine liver fluke, it's often subclinical disease. So subclinical disease is disease that even to the trained observer, even to a trained veterinarian or a long-time producer or rancher, they might be able to detect end-stage disease. But when that animal has disease that's impacting the reproductive performance, the gaining opportunity, conversion, and I would say it's unique in that it's widespread. It affects every segment of beef production. So from the cow-calf level, we know that cattle that originate in operations where flukes are present, they have decreased performance in terms of gain, body condition score. That translates into the challenges on reproduction. So then you've got the stocker and feeder element where cattle that have been exposed and carrying the liver fluke have decreased performance, decreased gain, higher cost of gain, and so on. So recognizing that this is an important subclinical disease of cattle, we need to pay attention to the recognition of the life cycle. It's a very unique life cycle. 4.5 to 6 months, involves an intermediate host. It's a really cool thing if you're into parasitology, but if you want to just really get to the nuts and bolts, treating at the appropriate time with the right product at the right time of year, and that's really where I would recommend you get involved with your herd veterinarian, do some sampling, some testing, see if you have flukes in your herd, and if you do, use the right product in the right time of year and manage that.
What are the options out there for managing that?
So currently in the United States, there's an injectable product that contains ivermectin and chlorcelon. That's Ivomec Plus, which is a Boehringer Ingelheim product. There is an oral product that is available, an oral drench containing albendazole, which has been available as well. But both of those licensed products are only effective against the adult stage of the liver fluke, which for most of the country is present in the fall of the year. So now is a very timely time to touch on this topic. If someone is concerned about the bovine liver fluke in their operation, now is a good time to do some diagnostics and probably treat their cattle.
So if people want more information on how to help identify some of these diseases so they know to call their vet, or things that they need to know about anything with their bovine health, how do they get information from Boehringer Ingelheim?
So you can reach out to, we have a great team of beef and dairy professional services veterinarians and a very extremely talented team of sales professionals. So I would say reach out to your local Boehringer Ingelheim PSV veterinarian or your sales professional, and they can direct you to the opportunities for doing fluke surveillance and testing, and also share technical insights about Ivomec Plus, our product.
All right, that's Dr. John Davidson, Senior Associate Director of Cattle Professional Services with Boehringer Ingelheim here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
And that was Dr. John Davidson with Boehringer Ingelheim. As for right now, let's take a look at the ag weather outlook. Here in central Iowa today, it is a chilly, overcast day, and that's kind of the story for much of the state. Overcast skies pretty much border to border, and those cooler temperatures. Tonight, some of the clouds will be leaving the area, and we will have decreasing cloud cover as the night moves on. And then tomorrow, we have a complete turnaround in terms of the weather as far as temperatures are concerned. Much warmer day on Saturday, and that goes pretty much across the state. So let's turn our attention now to the National Weather Service, what has in store for the next 24 hours. As you can see from the National Weather Service, mostly cloudy today with slight snow chances. Still pretty cool outside with high temperatures ranging from 13 to 28. Tonight, partly cloudy, still cooler temperatures with the lows expected in the 6 degrees to 19 degree range and decreasing clouds throughout the evening hours. Tomorrow, a much different story. Mostly sunny and warmer temperatures. Let the warm-up begin tomorrow. High temperatures expected across the state, 35 to 47. And turning now to our affiliate weather map for tomorrow, Cherokee expecting mostly sunny skies and 35 the high. Shenandoah partly cloudy and 47. Des Moines mostly sunny and 45 degrees. Albia mostly sunny and 45. Waterloo mostly sunny with a high expected around 35. And Clinton partly cloudy with a high around 38. For a more detailed forecast in your part of the state, make sure and check with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook. That also brings us to the end of this episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can find all of our video content and previous episodes of AMPM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget as well our free twice daily market podcast, which can be found wherever you find your favorite podcast at Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. On behalf of Riley Smith and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.